Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN 1087, and this is a 2016 GSF that just popped up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at the middle of November 2025 for $65,000 with about a little over 42,000 miles on it. And those of you that have been in the GSF community for more than a couple years will probably recognize this car. It's pretty well known. It's the only wide body GSF that, as far as I know, that currently exists. And it's supercharged, it has nitrous, it's very customized. It was originally blue. It was originally an 8X1 paint code with LA30 interior, red interior. And so you can obviously see it's very different now. It's white and it has a very customized, very little red interior. So we'll get into the modifications and things like that when we get into the pictures here in a minute. But for the production statistics, it's almost irrelevant on this car because it's neither blue nor red interior, but I'll go ahead and give them to you anyway. 269 out of the 2,348 cars that exist for the US 49 were ultrasonic blue mica. Of that, 62 had LA30 red interior, which is only 2.64% of all of the US 49 production was this color combination. So as far as rarity goes, it is an 8 out of 10. It is on the very rare side, but not the rarest. It's not like a 1 of 1 or anything like that. Specific for 2016 though, there's 177 out of the 1,417 cars that were ultrasonic blue mica. Of those, only 36 had LA30. So this car at its rarest is one of 36. But again, none of that matters now because it's not original paint. It's not blue anymore. It's not red interior anymore. So again, just wanted to, in the interest of being consistent with all of these deep dives, there's your production statistics. However, again, it almost doesn't matter now. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a 3-owner, 1-accident car, and it was in April of 2017, and it's moderate to severe damage, the front and the passenger side rear. So the entire front and the passenger side rear. And there are some pictures of that accident or the damage from it floating around the forums. I tried to look for them again and I can't find them. I don't know if it was on Instagram or where that they were shared, but there are pictures of the accident damage from this car floating around the internet. If you search long enough, hard enough, you'll probably find them, but I couldn't find them kind of in a moment's notice here. The other thing that Carfax shows is 2 mileage inconsistencies, and I think it's not quite fat fingering, but it's also after the accident. So I don't know, like if you're gonna consider looking at this car, pull the Carfax and look, or you can email me and I can send you the Carfax, but look at the Carfax carefully because there's 2 incidences of mileage discrepancy, and it's not just a little bit either. And it's not something where it was like fat fingered where it shows 2,100 miles instead of 21,000. It's like off 6,000 or 7,000 miles each time. So not sure what's going on there. Maybe the cluster got swapped. You know, as highly modified that this car is, there could be something like that going on. I'm not saying that's what happened, but just investigate thoroughly if you're considering looking at this car. Epic VIN shows this as a 3-owner, 1-accident car with the same type of damage and the same date, so that's the same accident. And AutoCheck, surprisingly, shows this as a 3-owner, no-accident car. And AutoCheck's usually more in-depth with the accidents. For some reason, it doesn't show it on this car. So very interesting there, but I think it's safe to say this is a 3-owner, 1-accident, very heavily customized and modified car. Previous sales. First one on sale in March of 2016 for $88,500 in New Jersey, and it looks like it finally sold in July of 2016. So for sale for about 4 months. That's not unusual to see for these cars. You know, some of them sat around for over a year before they sold to their first owner. This car sold in 4 months. So this car, digging through my photos and everything that I have on this car looks like it was raffled off on Instagram for a while, and then they sold it to somebody during that raffle. So they refunded all the people their money that bought a raffle. That was common to see a few years ago. You don't see it as often anymore. Now they're giveaways, but the raffle. And so it looks like that's where it was acquired. And there was one photo of the car when it was still blue. It had red wheels, the same wheels that are on it now, but they were red and it was blue. Still had the wide body done and things like that. So I think it traded hands privately at least once, and then it pops up for sale at a dealer here in Dallas-Fort Worth, the current one that's selling, but back in February of 2025 for the same price, $65,000 with 41,200 miles. And now it has like 1,200 more miles now. So it looks like it sold in less than a month later, and then it went back to New Jersey. So that's where it was originally from. So it went New Jersey to Texas, Texas to New Jersey, and then New Jersey now back to Texas. So it's back at the same dealer that sold it in February of 2025 for the same price, but with 1,200 more miles. I would assume it's still got the same modifications. It's a show car, very heavily modified. It's supercharged, it's got nitrous, air suspension. Part of the steering wheel's been cut, so it's got a yoke steering wheel. You know, there's a whole lot of, custom seats, a lot of customization. And so I definitely would not consider this a daily driver type of car. You would buy this and take it to shows and things along those lines. Now onto the photos. I have a couple more photos that were saved from when this car was originally a wide body. It was not done properly. And so the garage or the company that redid it, you can see here in the photos, some of the pictures, it was a terrible job. It had hacked wiring. It had a lot of Bondo, a lot of rust, things like that. And it really was not done correctly. And there's even a video showing some of it too. It appears that it was corrected there when the car had a color change, when it was painted white. So I would inspect the wheel wells and look up underneath to look at the wide body fender flares, things like that, and make sure that that was all properly redone and prepared. You know, make sure it's got some sort of rust protectant or coating underneath as well. Otherwise, if you're going to drive this car in the rain, you know, expect to have even more rust, more issues, paint bubbling, etc. But that's just something that, you know, the world of ultra customizing cars is not my realm. I do understand and know bodywork, I know paint, but you know, this kind of thing, it's all custom. So it's the only one that exists. You're going to have to inspect it very thoroughly and just satisfy yourself that you're happy with how the customization is done. This car is obviously a purpose-built show car, so you're not gonna daily drive it, as I said. Expect that going forward, unless you're going to, for whatever reason, return it to stock, which then again would involve more bodywork and customization just to get it back to stock. So I don't think that's the route you're going to go with this car. For $65,000, it obviously sold once at least around that price. So it's kind of hard to tell where the right price is for this car. It's one of those, it's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay. Now, I can't use the example if this was a stock car because it's so far from it. So you don't even consider what a market price for a stock car or slightly modified car is, which, you know, you can tell where the market is on those pretty easily. On this car, again, $65,000, it sold 8 months ago, somewhere around that price. And so it's back for sale at that price. And so I would say if it's sold then, it's probably worth somewhere around that right now. But again, because of the previous modifications, the original modifications were not done very well, but they were supposedly corrected, is what some of the people that I've talked to about this car have said. But it's a very well-known car, and it looks like the modifications are, you know, it's not everybody's taste, but if it's something you're after, they definitely look like high quality, expensive modifications. And so I would think that to get this car where it's at, you're probably going to have to spend probably a lot more than even the asking price for this car. So I think you would get your values worth as far as the mods go there. It's not for everybody, but it's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. And it looks like around $60,000 to $65,000 is probably what somebody's willing to pay for it. Service history. So this car is not well dealer serviced at all. It's really not that well serviced, period. And, you know, as you would expect for a customized car, it's probably just sits around, it does a lot of sitting, and so it's just probably oil changes and tires, not brakes, not anything else, because it doesn't get driven, so there's things that don't fail. But the last time it was serviced was about 6 years ago and only 5,000 miles ago. So you could do an oil change and boom, you're up to date on service. So the first entry of note is August of 2016. They noted that the car was shifting into manual mode by itself. And I think probably what was going on is just on the steering wheel, if you accidentally tap one of the paddles, it goes into manual mode for a short period, and then it will go back to automatic. And so maybe that's what that was. Not a big deal or concern. November of 2016, the check engine light was on, and it doesn't say what, they just said a gross evaporative leak, the emission system, and it's probably a loose gas cap. Again, nothing to worry about there. June of 2017, right after that major accident, the left front, I don't know why it says left front axle boot leaking, but it's either the axle, the CV boot for the axle in the rear, or maybe the drive shaft, but the drive shaft doesn't have a boot of any sort. So I would assume it's an axle boot with slinging grease. probably related to the accident, I would guess. April of 2018, the JLB recall was done. That's the high pressure fuel pumps. So that's done and out of the way. May of 2018, they couldn't put it on the lift due to the modifications that it has. So I guess they didn't figure out how to air it up to put it on the lift, but it obviously has air suspension. But they also state that the car won't go over 30 miles an hour. So I don't know if that is something accident related, if it's something related to the modifications, but there's some kind of issue there and it doesn't say what they did to resolve it. There was also a note about the passenger headlight had moisture in it and they denied it due to the modifications. If you've been around modified cars long enough, you should know about the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act of 1977, and that's basically says that they cannot deny warranty just because of other modifications. So if the engine's modified, sure, they can void the warranty on the engine, but they can't void the warranty on the headlight because the engine's modified. That's basically what that act is about. So to me, I smell some stuff going on here, but the headlight, if it's still under bumper to bumper warranty, which it looks like it was at the time, then it should have been covered, and it wasn't replaced. So maybe it was replaced in the future. But the first time you wash the car, if you see some moisture in the headlight, that's exactly what's going on. So I would look at that passenger front headlight very carefully, make sure that there's no further damage. And the last service, December of 2019, 36,000 miles. The KLG was done, which is the GPS customer service program. It's just reporting the navigation location in the wrong place. So that's done and sorted. So that's the last thing. But if you go on to Carfax, you can see in April of 2021 at 38,000 miles, they did an oil change, and it was at a Valvoline instant oil change type of place. And in February of 2025, 40,500 miles, new battery, and a turn signal was repaired or replaced. I'm assuming that's, well, it wouldn't be a bulb because it has LEDs, so maybe something else was going on there, but something of note. So I would say, you know, it hasn't been driven a lot, so it doesn't need a lot of maintenance, but at the end of the day, this is a 10-year-old car with 10-year-old fluids, so I would get the transmission serviced, I would get the differential serviced. You're good on other things right now, but the carbon fiber is original, but obviously the car's been modified, so maybe it's been cleared over or otherwise customized. The valley plate, of course, go inspect the valley plate, do a mechanical inspection, do a body inspection on this car too. Look underneath the fender liners, look in the fender wells, and make sure that all of the body work was done to your satisfaction if it was indeed repaired, because you remember seeing the photos, it did have some issues prior before it was painted white. So finally, would I buy this car? On a personal level, no. You know, the modifications, it was customized to how somebody else likes it, not how I like it. You know, that's how I like it. And there is a but for every seat. There will be a buyer for this car. It just has to find the right buyer. You got to have some deep pockets, and you got to have the want for a car that you basically can't daily drive. And so it is a show car. Yes, it's supercharged. Yes, it's got nitrous. Hopefully it hasn't been used a whole lot. These engines don't like nitrous very much, but it does have forged internals, so it should handle it for at least a little while. It just depends on how much it was used. That's kind of another reason I wouldn't buy this car, is because it has nitrous on it. Supercharged, customized, you know, that part doesn't bother me, but again, it's not to my liking. I would say it hasn't been incredibly well serviced, but it has at least been serviced. The brakes are even custom, so you can't even go off of, you know, schedule for mileage for brakes or anything like that. I would also assume, since this car has exchanged hands a few times, that you probably don't have any of the stock parts available, which again is almost irrelevant with this car. But again, it's not for me, but I think it will find a buyer. So if you did buy this car, leave me a note in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. How was the body work? You know, how was the rest of the car? But I think that it's a cool car. It's just not for me, but it will be for somebody. So anyway, that's what I've got for you guys, VIN1087. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon. Hopefully we see it in the forums and stuff here pretty soon.